So, just a reminder to everyone that the Southern Utah Piano Pedagogy Conference is coming up very quickly, April 9th, being held up at SUU. There is a link on the UMTA website, so you can go there to get more information. It should be really good. Looking forward to that. So, we don't have a chapter meeting in April. So it's a good thing that Christopher Oill is here one more time. Feel like we're best buddies now, three times. And so, Christopher, if you want to take it away, would be great.
Yeah, sure. I think I just want to. Uh, I think I'm allowed to share my screen. I just want to test this out. Let's see. Share sound. Okay. Okay. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll stop though for a second. So before we get into it, just to be clear about what today is all about. So this session's called Let's Write, and it's going to be exactly what it sounds like. So one of the best ways to learn how to compose is just to do it. And so we're going to compose as much of a piece as we can today. That's our main goal. And then throughout, we're going to use a five-step process. I'm going to not go too much into detail about each of the five steps, but I just think of this process as like a very, very general guideline on how to get from the beginning of the piece to an end of a piece. And it's not a very clean cut process. You can end up going from step one to step three, or step three to step one, or backwards, forwards, anywhere you want to go. But it's a nice place to start and to try to follow at least as much as you can. So now that being said, I will share my screen again. Okay, so this is a handout that is actually on my website. You can get it. The website is oillpianouniverse.com, Oill pianouniverse.com, and it's my composition template. And it doesn't actually have all these text markings in it. This is just for today. And then at the bottom, it'll give you more details about that five-step process that I keep talking about. And the first step is to think, which is something you wouldn't think that we would think about when we first start to compose. But basically, what we want to do is we want to come up with a reason for the composition. Because once you come up with a reason for the composition, it gives us a destination to compose to, rather than just like composing into the void, into empty space. And so um, I want to brainstorm together, and just to make sure the chat box is working, can you all type something into the chat box and say hi?
Mm.
So chat box, you should see it at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, okay, excellent. Yay. Okay, we've got Jay and Patrice, yep, and then ooh,
Nancy.
Dr. Nancy. I'm gonna refer to you as Doctor. And, okay, excellent. Looks like we're all working. Hey, ooh, and we got a hi with an exclamation point. Someone's excited to be here.
Eloise. Yay.
So, okay, good. Chat box is working. Now, let's think about why. What's our composition today going to be for? So, well, first thing I was thinking is, well, do we want to write for ourselves today, or do we want to write for our students? I wonder if we could take a vote. Do you want to write for one of your students? Do you want to write for yourself? Do you have a particular level in mind that you'd like to write for? Can you type that into the chat box? Some opinions. See if we can maybe come to a group decision. Self and elementary. Okay, that's our first vote. Easy. Okay, yep. Self and elementary, easy for a student. I think we're now 3 for 3 on about easy level, which is totally good with me. And yeah, ditto.
Thanks,
Eloise,
Eloise.
I'm loving your responses so far, Eloise. So, okay, good. So we're gonna write for let's just take some notes in our composition template. We're gonna do self. We're gonna do sort of elementary level about, and that's that can be a very wide span of things. Mean a very wide span of things. Elementary, and then elementary level student. Okay, good. Now let's brainstorm even further. Let's get some ideas. First, let's think about okay, we're writing for one of our students. What are your elementary students interested in, at least right now? What are some kind of common popular topics that they might be interested in?
Animals,
Animals.
sports.
Hmm. And you can also type it into the chat box too.
Oh,
So,
oops.
or no, you can unmute. That's fine. You can unmute yourself too, just so both. So let's write some ideas down. Animals, sports. Okay, and any other ideas? Technology. Okay, and maybe let's see. Maybe we can take one more idea. And outdoor. Well, yeah, it goes along with the sports, doesn't it? So, well, maybe. Let's see. Outdoors and food. Okay, I think that's enough suggestions for birds. Oh, well, actually, animals slash birds. Okay, good, good, good. And so, um, what's funny is I think all of these suggestions can kind of go together. So, let's say we're writing a piece about birds, which is an animal, birds who are playing sports, obviously outdoors, and well, it's better than being in a cage, right? So, birds that are playing sports outdoors. How can technology fit into this? Maybe it's the future. They're playing some sort of futuristic sport, um, and they get to celebrate afterwards with some clementines. So, um, what are we going to call this piece? Let's give it a title. So, let's see. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Hold on. Let's do this. I have some
Twitter meets tennis.
Twitter meets tennis. Okay.
I just, I'm thinking out loud.
Love it. Now, since this is for our elementary student, why don't we throw in one more? Let's just think about at least one more thing here before we move on to the second phase, which is there any? Let's think about your current elementary level students. Is there any particular um, what's the word I'm looking for? Is there any particular for lack of a better word, thing that they are struggling with at the moment? So we can make this a little bit more pedagogical of a composition too. So we can make it sort of like hyper focused on, um, and we can probably make it work into our story somehow. So like, are they struggling to read steps or skips? Is there a particular range of the staff that they're not comfortable with yet? Is there rhythms that they have trouble with, or anything in particular? Any concept. Concept is the word I was looking for. Yay. Okay. So let's think about rhythm. Okay. And what kinds of rhythm? All rhythms?
um, Quarter and eighth,
Uh huh. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
dotted, dotted eight, dotted quarters. Yeah, just
Okay. So let's see. Um, I'm gonna make a note over here. So reading. Okay. So we got quarter, verse, eighths, and then we've got reading skips, intervals, thirds. Yes. Okay. Skips and intervals and thirds. So skips, yeah. So okay, and then good, and we don't need too many more concepts in that. I think it can be limiting if we go in with too many concepts pre-planned. Let's see if we can sneak in um, some quarters and eighth notes and skips into there. Um, okay, good. So now let's go down back to our compositional process. So we've done a lot of thinking about why and what it's for and all of that. Now, the next thing I would suggest is one of the elements of music, which is form. And so I want to lay out what we're going to do approximately from the beginning of the piece to the end of the piece. And we can think of this a little bit in terms of stories, but since we're the ones composing, we're not helping it's not our students doing the composing. We can kind of just make it a little bit more cut and dry and think about like, okay, well, what's some common forms that we see at that age? So if we take a look at like lesson books, if you take a look at lesson books or performance pieces at that level, what is like some of the more common forms that you might see at that level? Some of the more, you could say, basic forms that you might see at that level, at elementary level.
ABA.
Probably ABA. Yeah, and ABA, or even maybe just shorter. Like we might even only be dealing with phrase level organization here, just like A phrase, B phrase, A phrase, B phrase, not an entire A section and a B section. So, but yeah, let's go with ABA, and then um, of course, something else that does some in my own observations at this level, something that can, if you ever want to extend your piece a little bit, and actually, I'm thinking we might do this in this piece too, is to add like a intro or a coda, so you can kind of like so you can slap an introduction section or a coda onto any piece and it'll feel okay. The piece would work with the introduction and the coda, and it would work without the introduction and the coda. It doesn't really matter. So um, those are really just kind of more for fluff. I use them just to like fill more space. Now, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Let's do ABA, and I'm gonna put A section here. Let's see. Do we have space? B A. Uh, do we need an intro? Is what I'm asking. So let's think about our story. Maybe not. I don't think we need an intro. So we'll just do A over here, and we'll do B here, and we'll go back to A over here, and then I want to add a coda, and I'll tell you why in a second. So, so um, let's think about our story. Let's think about our description so far. We want to have quarters versus eighths. We want to have skips in there, and so now let's think about how that can apply to our story. So, or our piece, I should say. And so we're writing for the elementary level student. We want we want to write something called Twitter meets tennis, and so so that's
It
funny.
doesn't have to be that.
Oh no, it's a funny. I love that title. I think it's great. And so we're gonna write about birds that are playing tennis, and they are yep. And then at the end they celebrate by eating some clementines. That sounds like a good enough story to me. And Tweety Bird. So what's happening in the first part? Let's say um, it's so tennis. Let's think generally. Tennis is a very exciting sport, and birds tend to be. Um, okay, let's make this into somewhat that we could. Since this is a more of a for kids, we can make this into more of a story-like thing, or we can think just more generally about what we want the character to be of each section. So, like what would you want the character of the first section to be? If we have an ABA form, generally speaking, the A sections are going to be the more defining character of the piece. And so, would you say what is the if you had to pick one word to describe the character of this piece or the emotion of this piece, what would it be? And you can type your thought into the chat box. Bouncy, yeah, bouncy, flighty, fluttery. Yes. Okay. I've already got some great musical ideas in my head based on those two descriptions alone, honestly. Um, so, uh, okay, so that's good enough, I think, for now. And then now we can in the B section we can do one of two things really. We can let's think we're okay, bouncy, flighty, fluttery, and that's kind of like I guess they're like playing the game or something. And then we get to the B section, and we can either take these emotions and characters, and we can basically amplify them and make them super super like incredibly bouncy and incredibly fluttery, or like Jay just said, we can do sort of the opposite and say and do make it tired and and make it almost like just calm and the opposite basically. So since Jay already chimed in, jumping the gun to what I was about to say already, and which is awesome. I'm glad that we're on the same page, and so I like that. I think let's go with tired for the B section. And does anyone want to add anything else onto that feeling? Um, tired. Hmm.
A water break.
We can make it. Yes, we can give it a little bit more of a description for the story. Water break. Cool. And actually, the word water, I don't know about the word for you, but when I hear the word water, that like sparks a lot. There's a lot of musical pieces about water, so we can steal a lot of ideas from there. And then, of course, maybe when we get back to the A section, whoops, what did I do here? Okay, there we go. Ah, okay, there we go. When we get back to the A section, let's go. We're ready to get back into the game, so we'll go flighty and fluttery. Maybe something. So usually when it returns to the A section, it'll be slightly different somehow, very slightly different. And so let's say um, the first half of the game was kind of was boring, and then they took a water break, and then the last half of the game, there's a little bit more tension usually when you're playing a sport, and you get to the end of the game, and there's tensions are rising because time is limited. So we might do a let's say what would be the word for that? More, I guess, just
Competitive.
more. What'd you say?
Competitive. Uh,
More, yeah, more competitive. Okay, yeah, good. And so, so far, here's our forms, and then the coda. Here's what I was thinking. Here's is what I had. The coda is where we get to enjoy the oranges, enjoy the clementines, eat clementines. And so you could think of this as like, what would be the, how would you feel when you're just enjoying the spoils, or like just relaxing after? I guess it would be satisfied, right? Satisfied would be a good descriptor. Okay, good. So we've got we've got a good form set out. A B A. We've got good characteristic descriptions for each section. Let's go into the step 3, which is research or experiment. And so basically what we want to do for this is and of course you don't actually have to, if you already have the idea behind the section is you want to come up with general musical sounds that you can start to mess around with in each section. Now if nothing's coming to mind right away, this is why I call it research or experiment, because what we're going to want to do is we can go look at method books, or we look at pieces that are closely related in lesson books or in repertoire books. But we can also look at like real advanced music that shares the same qualities as what we're going for. And this is why I put a heavy emphasis on talking about the character, the emotions of the piece. And because then if you type in, let's say, bouncy music, um, you're gonna get tons and tons of things to listen to. Um, and so positive morning music, that sounds fun. And honestly, like we can imitate that very easily. The boom chick, doom chick, doom chick, doom chick. That sounds very bouncy. I don't know about you, but hey, I've already got an idea. You know, that's in G major, so we can go right. Or if we wanted to make that a little simpler, a little bit more close to what you see in the lesson books, for example, we would put that maybe somewhere towards the center of the keyboard. Let's transpose to C major. And there we go. We've got a very, very easy texture that's very similar. Notice what were a couple of things that I did that I heard and copied in? I wonder if you were paying attention. Well, so now, uh, all right, let me back. Sorry, let me back up for a second. So when you're doing your research and you're doing and you're finding sounds to imitate, you want to be thinking about all the rest of the elements of music besides form. So melody, and you can kind of define these in whatever way makes sense to you: melody, harmony, rhythm, dynamics, texture, timbre. Um, if you have any questions about what I think those mean, maybe we can save those questions for the end. But for now, let's just kind of think of them more broadly. And so, what was I listening for in particular? What did I copy about that bouncy? So far, we haven't really touched on flighty or fluttery yet, but what made it sound bouncy? And could we talk about it in terms of like, so like here, I'll give an example in the chat box. So I would think like um, 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 harmony, right? Very, very major. Lots and lots of major chords. Um, very major, major heavy. What else made it feel bouncy? So I put harmony very major. And what about that rhythm? Let's see.
Sounded
So,
like bouncing.
mm-hmm.
Dum.
And I would say mostly that was like quarter notes, right? That I wouldn't call that skips yet. That was movement in the bass line. Uh-huh. So, movement, I feel like that goes under melody, movement in the bass line, and just like Patrice was doing, the rhythm was very steady quarter notes, which actually is going to, I think, help quite a bit with our quarter note, eighth note conundrum, because if we have a whole bunch of quarter notes that are very steady, that gives us a very good reference point, so that when we eighth notes come in, we have a very clear divide between the two. So okay, quarter, 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 and then all of a sudden, to get a little bit of flutteriness, maybe what we can do is we can. Well, does anyone else have an idea? What do we do to create that fluttery sound? Um, well, I already gave it away for the rhythm. We can double it into eighth notes, but what is a super fluttery sound that you might hear in um, it, there's only one thing that comes to my brain. You might hear it, let's say, at the end of a cadenza, or you might hear it at like if you listen to Mozart, it always comes at the end of a section. hmm. Fluttery sound, and I'll give
Trill?
you trill. Yeah, there we go. So we can do an eighth note trill that, and so let's say we do something like so we have something like this. By the way, I like that too. As far as I'm gonna put this under timbre. Something else I heard was a two note slur. Um, that made it feel pretty bouncy. And then, okay, so melody, let's put this under melody, because that's a very melodic like thing to do. Trill. And so, okay, we got trills, dynamics. Let's see. Okay, generally speaking, well, here I'm at it. I'm sort of debating this one. Maybe you guys can help. So, birds are very light in nature, and but it's a very fun event. So, when I think fun and bouncy, and I think loud generally. But hear about um, when I think about birds, I think the opposite. I think very light, very airy, very high on the piano, this kind of thing. So, um, in terms of dynamics, let's get some votes in there. How loud do we want it to be?
The second A section would need to be stronger, louder, more intense. So the first A section wouldn't need to be too intense, I don't think. They're
Okay,
just warming up.
I agree. So, how about mezzo forte for the A section, and then when it returns, forte.
Oh,
And that actually helps us with getting our more competitive spirit already. So we're thinking about the long term here. A section loud, B section soft. Yeah, okay, I agree. So we'll do mostly piano here. Um, and then we have, let's say, um, yeah, okay, good. So mostly like this. That sounds good. And then probably relaxed again for maybe like piano or mezzo piano for the coda because it's kind of like satisfied. Very good. And then texture basically is just like how thick it is and like how many notes you're playing at the same time and where the range is on the piano. Since we're writing for elementary level, and I think what we're going to aim for today is to make it readable, um, let's go with something like just kind of in the center of the staff and somewhat in C major. Although you could, if you wanted to, you could just very simply add like an 8 VA to if you wanted it to be higher on the keyboard. Um, so I'll write in here, center uh, or 8 VA. Maybe we can um, bring that in somehow. Okay, good. So this is just kind of like I actually do want to start like writing some stuff into our program over here. But I just wanted to give you kind of like a sneak peek if you wanted to use this template, how you could use it. And so you fill it out this kind of way. Now let's dive in a little bit more into actually like writing this. So um, let's see. Um, well, in the chat box, can you let me know? Do you like the ideas we have so far, or because if so, then I'm just going to notate it right now. If you really strongly feel like there should be something different for the A section, then um, voice your opinion. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, so I'm going to put this into finale, and let's do bum bum. Okay, and dum bum bum ba yada da 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 yada da da dum. Okay, yeah. So we'll do something like this. We can always change this later. Um, and I guess I'm sort of cheating a little bit here, but we'll go back to the composition process in a second. I just want to come up with an idea, um, mm, and then we'll do a flutter in the left hand. Da 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 dum. Da 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 dum. And then we'll copy it in the right hand. Okay, so what we have is we have our the ball is bouncing around quite a bit in the left hand, and the bird takes a break to do a little bit of fluttering. Yada-da-da-dum, yada-da-da-dum, bum. And maybe we'll just do, actually for fun, here. There we go. Okay, so we've got part of our A section written here. Can you hear? Can you by any chance hear the sounds? Can you when I'm putting those notes in? Did you hear any notes or? Okay, so here's what this sounds like. Um, so that's kind of like the idea. I'm not super happy with it quite yet, but we're just gonna keep it the way it is, and we can go back and edit it later. Now, let's say for the B section, where we are tired, we need a water break. Um, do okay. Okay, so let's think about the characteristics of that section. Let's say, okay, the A section is going to last like this long, 8 measures. The B section maybe will be, if you want some notes here, B and A. So for the B section, okay, rhythms maybe probably slower rhythms here. So we take away. We're not focusing in this case. Oh, look what we also did. Hey, we also covered skips, didn't we? In the left hand. So good. Bum bum bum. Well, do do. Okay, we're tired in the B section. Slower rhythms. Why don't we actually do something a little bit more? Since we're tired, something a little bit more dangerous with the harmony, like a little bit more slow. Okay, tired is a very, very close word. It almost means the same thing as diminished. So, so we could actually take that idea, and what if we go up to something like this? Bum 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 bum. Better yet, okay, Patrice, I'm gonna take your idea. Uh, of the water. So what is it? Water break. And you know how like at games like they pour the water over the head of the coach. um, so we're going to think about water flowing downward in this case. And so we're going to start from the high note. Bum bum. Slow yo. Same thing in the left hand. We like imitation. And then I've got a fun little tool I set up here. Hopefully, actually, I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh yeah, I don't have the symbol yet. I opened up. Okay, well, we'll do it with this symbol over here. This is we're gonna add some pedal. Yeah, pedal, because pedal makes it sound very watery. And there we go. Ba-dum, ba-da-da-da. And then maybe we'll do something a little bit more dramatic the second time it comes around. Okay, I'm going to add some in. And feel free to play these on your piano while you're seeing them. Um, let's do how about 8, 16, 16 more measures. And so that'll come in over here. And then we'll take something like this. Um, okay, we'll copy it over here because it's just an A section. Then we need to come up with something, an idea for the last section. We're satisfied, and while we're eating clementines. So, so the fun thing about codas is they really like don't have to do like anything with they. You can just kind of like take small parts of the rest of the piece and just kind of reuse, recycle, repeat, and riff off of them, or you can codas sometimes they don't even sound anything like the rest of the piece, so you can just and it doesn't have to even be 8 measures long. So we're enjoying our clementines. um, let's go with some kind of major harmony. So far we've really stuck like very closely to the center of the keyboard. I have a feeling that's going to get a little bit boring. Maybe we can do something more exciting over here. um, in okay, we'll stick to major harmonies here. What's a very satisfying sound on the piano for elementary students? You guys have any ideas? Can you type it in the chat box? Help me out here. Satisfying. What do you what's what do the elementary students really like to do? What's very satisfying to them? The root of the one chord. Uh-huh. Rhythmic. Good. Okay. I can work with that. Uh-huh. Okay. Root of the one chord. And rhythmic. So let's do rhythmic. Is there a specific kind of rhythm that you have in mind, Doctor? Hmm. Let's see. So we got root of the one chord. Okay, we're at C major. So, hmm. Something like that. 5 7 1 is very satisfying. You're right. And quarters and eighths. Okay. Yum ba ba bum ba yum ba ba bum ba. Hey, I okay. At this point, why don't we? So since we've sort of like, we very clearly define. Okay, repeated notes. All very good ideas. Um, okay, and I see where you're going with this. Okay, so then, uh, so far we had very clear quarter notes, and then we had an eighth note pattern to just to break that up. Or for a coda, why don't we do? Let's see. We got a 5 1 5 7 1. Or if we wanted to, let's say, break up the range a little bit, we could do. I know I sort of cheated that. Okay, well, if you want more clear 5 7 1, we can do. There we go. So that way we have the top note went down to. Okay. Uh, looks like we don't need all 8 measures. Let's just do the 4 measures there. And so, and then we get a little bit range. So we have the repeated note pattern, repeated notes that Doctor requested. I love that. Bum ba da dum bum 5 dum bum bum, and then down. I can't quite sing that low. And yum. We'll end with what it's called a zinger. A zinger is like one last note onto the piece that gives it an extra little like oomph. Okay, and then do 1 2 3 4. For some students, yeah, usually if there's a coda or at the very end of the piece, I usually like to do things that are like very slightly more difficult than the rest of the piece because they're like almost at the end. They have a little bit more motivation. And so you can kind of convince them to try a little extra hard. And so, um, this right here is a pretty difficult move compared to the rest of the piece so far, um, which is okay. Okay. And we said we were going to do mezzo forte, tempo, dynamics, mezzo forte at the beginning. We're going to go quiet at the middle, and we're going to go loud over here. And then we have, let's say, satisfied. You know what? I'm rethinking the whole mezzo piano idea. I think you guys have a different version of satisfied than I do, which is totally okay. So why don't we put? We'll just keep it forte there, or maybe we can even crescendo to the end and make it like fortissimo. Although that's not a symbol that elementary level students might often see. But like I said, it's the end. You can kind of like sneak in some new content in there. Okay, so now, oh yeah, and then our 2 note slur. This is going to be tricky. Let's see. So just as a little, remember the 2 note, ba, ba, and then 2 note slurs, just to give you a little preview of what this might look like. Oh, it's going to look much better than that, but this would be some sort of heavy editing going on, but there would be like a 2 note slur kind of looking cleaner than that on the page. Um, but like this little bit over here maybe look like that. That might be a good way to notate those two note slurs, except not as sloppy. And so, um, okay, so now let's move on. We've sketched out some really good ideas for the first for each section, and then next in our form, sorry, in our 5-step process, we want to sketch the whole piece. And what do I mean by that? Basically, I just mean improvise. And so, um, I know uh, when I'm given, or when my students are given some rules to improvise with, some guidelines, it makes it so much easier to improvise. If you just throw the word improvise out without any kind of help at all, without any kind of guidelines, then it's a scary word. But if we already know kind of generally the ideas that we're improvising with, it's a little bit easier. And so when you're basically at this point, what we're doing is we're taking these small ideas and we're riffing off of them for a little bit. So, um, here, so when I'm playing around on my own, I might go, you know, so I'm taking these ideas that I have written down and letting them, and I'm just riding the wave a little bit of like uh, reusing some of the material. I'm changing some ideas on the spot. Just really scratch the itches that you have when you play it. So if I play this opening section, I said, I felt just weird to kind of sit on that note. I didn't like just kind of holding it. And so I wanted to find something else to do. I just thought maybe one more idea might be good. But, work your way through the whole piece also at some point, because you might find that there are some big picture ideas that you come up with when you just recklessly blast your way through the whole piece. Like, I have a feeling, I'm going to test out this theory for a second, but I have a feeling that I'm going to get pretty bored of the range in this piece. And so at some point, I'm going to need to go outside and move my hand a little bit over, since the piece is a little bit long. And actually, I already did, right? I moved my left hand down to that before because I was just so tired of being in that same position. And so, um, while maybe I can give you a minute to sort of play around with some ideas on your own, or
Christopher, I
yeah,
had an idea. Pull the music down just a little bit so I can see it.
uh
Because
huh.
I'm going, I don't like a little bit more. I need the top line too. I don't
Oh,
like the jump. Yeah, that's great. The, and then if you do that, what I don't like is so then that if going from the minor to that middle section, that just in my brain, I need a little bit more of a transition before that middle section.
yeah,
Makes
excellent.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And so, and that's that. So this is kind of like, this is where in the form, I'm gonna hold that thought for a second, and we're gonna edit it. The piece. I like your idea. So, step, like I said before, the 5-step process is kind of a messy process. It's like, um, but generally speaking, yeah, you're kind of, we're sort of overlapping now into step 5, which is shaping the piece. And so this is where we start to get into really the big the we get very nitpicky about the ideas and the form and cutting sections and adding sections um the whole nine. So uh I like that idea. I think that maybe we need a little bit more time to digest before we go into this falling. So why don't we we'll say so if we were to go back to the form, basically what you just did was you said um I almost want to say that this tired part was more like a transition section. So we're gonna call that transition and tired water, and then what you did was you sort of like um, the feeling I got was that you made the game, you know, before we took a break. There's a reason that we took a break. We took a break because it was getting a little heated. The players were getting angry at each other. um, uh, heated, angry. So that's our B section, which is very close to what we had before. Or you can say what you kind of did was almost like A prime. And so we have or B, right? We'll call it B. And then transition A. Good. So let's go back to our score over here, and we'll copy. How about let's say, I think I need to insert. Do 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 do. That was about 8 measures that you did, I think, right? And so give me a second to straighten this out. Yeah, da 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 dum, ba 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 bum. Okay. And oops. And okay. There we go. So, and this is actually looking like a good length for an elementary piece. A lot of elementary pieces end up being about 30 to 40 measures. So that's like a nice length. Some are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit longer. Um, so let's say we copy and paste something like that, right? But we make it minor this time. Okay, and yum. Okay, and yada da da da. I think you did something like ba da 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 dum. Uh, a oh, sorry, E natural, E flat, right? Mm-hmm. Yada dum bum, and da da dum bum bum ba da 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 dum bum ba ba da da ya da da, and something similar. Okay, so let's then um now to finish the piece, if we sketch our way through, sometimes you really have to do just simple things like what you just did. Um, was really nice, Patrice. Um, was You don't have to change too much. You can just copy a lot. But yeah, you can very slightly tweak what you already have. Yeah, what is it? Da 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 ba 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 ba, something like that, right? um, mm, and yep, there we go. Something very simple. Ba da da bum 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 ba da. There we go. So if we play this so far, it would sound like this. Oh, great. Sorry, we made that little tweak. Okay. Yeah. Yeah da da da. Okay, that feels a little bit more comfortable to keep it in the left hand. Um, yeah da 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 dum, and then we have a little bit of that bounce still too. So do 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 do.
And
And
Christopher, we have about 7 minutes left.
okay, good. Let me just finish this one idea, and then maybe I can actually open up to questions too. Yeah da 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 dum. So really what I'm doing here is I'm just getting super nitpicky in step 5, which is shape. I'm letting my urges take over, and really whatever is the most annoying thing at the moment, take care of that first. And so there's always going to be one thing, at least one thing that you know for sure you want to change. So go for that one thing first. and or some one thing that's bothering you. Go for that first, and then try not to what's the word, get overwhelmed by like, oh, I have to finish the whole piece all at once. I know that for me, that's a feeling that can very easily take over my brain, and you won't finish the piece that way. You're gonna just like get frustrated and throw it off to the side. It's much easier to just say, oh, this one note, I don't like it, and then change the one note, and then after you fix that, something else will stand out to you and be like, well, I don't like that one, although. So okay, here's what this piece. I'll play through this now just so you can get a kind of a rough idea of where we're at. And like I said, I wasn't sure we were gonna finish the piece today, but we're very close actually. So we have. Now it's not perfect, but it's a really good start to our piece. Really starts to sound like birds playing tennis. So I might change a couple. Looking back, I might change just a couple things. I might instead of doing those flutters in the left hand, I might do them in the right hand, just because that whole bird being lighter thing. I might shorten a couple things. I might tweak. Yeah, it does just a couple things I'd like to tweak. But anyways, so I'll open the floor to questions now. You can either unmute yourself or ask in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, I think you're muted. Patrice, you're still muted. I can't hear you.
I'm
There
pushing
we
the
go.
wrong bar. I'm looking
Okay,
on my laptop. Anyway, are you going to send us a copy of our composition?
I can. Yeah, I could probably finish tweaking it and then um, well, yeah, maybe because well, it depends. Do you want me to really, really finish it, or send you like kind
Oh,
of a
I think
draft?
just the way it is.
Okay, so then yes, I will. I'll finish putting in the notes the way that it kind of just played it, and then
Yeah,
keep in mind it's not the final draft, right? So you can, if you want, you can tweak it to exactly how you'd like it to be. Um, very good. Yes, and that was yeah. Oilpianouniverse.com is it. I might tweak a couple little things before. But yeah, okay, good. Other questions? Send two ways, one for us to play with and one your way. Awesome. So then I will send it the way that it currently is, with like totally, totally unedited. And then I'll send you what I would consider to be a nice final draft.
that'd be great.
All right. Well, cool. Hey, thanks for all of your suggestions. I think y'all were very helpful towards creating a very interesting piece.
It's been fun. I love the handouts. Those are, and just to be able to do this together, I think this really helps me see how to help a student not be overwhelmed.
Oh yeah. Well, it's always fun to do this because it's like I never know where these presentations are gonna go. Keep it real open ended. Um, okay, well, cool. Well, if there's no more questions, then do you want to take it away?
Okay, so just Thank you, Christopher, for all of your time and your expertise. It's been fun having you 3 times in this last chapter year. A reminder about the Piano Pedagogy Conference. There is no chapter meeting in April because of the conference. So I think that's all. And thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you, Christopher.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye.